challenge with doing the last session is always that there is a degree of fatigue, and also there are some redundancies. Just in one of the previous sessions, a gentleman when asked you that how many of you use ChatGPT, I just saw one hand being raised. I think that was a sign of fatigue. I can say almost with certainty that 99% of you use ChatGPT, but you were so tired that you didn't raise your hand. What I'm going to do now is I talk to the organizers, and if it is possible, I will try to shorten this session a bit, and also Honorable Bidushi Rana has to go for a very urgent meeting to her party. She is holding her over here for a very long time. The original time that we had given her was 4:45, then it was 5, and now it is 6:25. So keeping everything in mind and looking at her urgency a bit, I will try to make it a bit shorter, and I hope the organizers won't mind about that one. I just looked at the agenda, and by now you have listened to at least 25 panelists. And I'm more than sure that all of those panelists have been wonderful. You might have learned a lot. And there is one word that has been repeated since this morning, and that is the abundance of cash in Nepalese banking and financial sector along with our national bank. It is so much that it can meet the need of services and goods up to 18.5 months. That is to a tune of about 23.55 billion, or should I say close to 35 kharba. It's a massive amount of money. And also the deposits in our banks is close to about 80 kharba. And we have hit the rock bottom when it comes to interbanking loan. And also the other indicators that we have in our economy all are pointing that perhaps Nepal is at a point where the investment should be taking at a very rapid pace. But that is not happening. So Nepal's overall economy at the moment can be captured in 3 words: potential, promising, and paradoxical. I have just given you a few numbers. They show how potential Nepal is. And promising, it is promising because Nepal has just now a brand new government, not even 2 months old, with a near 2/3 majority in the parliament. And it has arguably one of the finest finance ministers in South Asia and one of the most energetic prime ministers that we have seen in recent time in the whole world. So all indicators are there that the things should go in a very positive direction. But paradoxically, if I have to say so, the things are not moving. The money is there, the interest rate is low, the investors are there, the government is very willing. The government has gone to an extent of saying that we are going to have a 7% GDP growth rate consistently for the next 5 to 7 years. They want to make our per capita GDP grow twice, and if possible, they will try to make our economy a $100 billion economy. So there are the potentials, there are the promises, but the paradox is that the things are not moving. And we have discussed a lot about those things today, but today we are going to discuss the same thing, but for the perspective of our neighboring country. And for that, we have 3 extremely important panelists in our panel who basically represents the countries that have come from India. As you have already been introduced to them, I'm also honored to have the former ambassador to India, Dr. Shankar Sharma. Should I say former or? Okay, maybe by a few days, but still he's a former. He's also an economist par excellence. He's also the former ambassador to the USA. He's also the former national vice chair of the National Planning Commission. So we have one person who is a mixture of diplomacy, economy, and also to some extent the governance. So I think he will be the right person to ask my very first question. But having said that, let me have a disclaimer. This is going to be a bilingual panel discussion because I can see two of them understand English and Nepali equally well. Three of them do understand, I think, English very well and half Nepali. And I think 99% of you understand English and Nepali very well. So if it is required, I will try to make it bilingual. With your permission, let me ask the very first question to Dr. Shankar Sharma. Sir, as I said, Nepal looks at a very paradoxical situation now. We have everything that looks very good on paper, but in reality and on ground, the things are not moving as it should have been. From the vantage point of New Delhi, if you look at Nepal's economy, and also you might have had a lot of conversation with potential Indian investors in Nepal, what is the scene like, how it looks like?
Thank you, Jayji. Thank you, organizers, for inviting me to this panel discussion. First of all, I think my observation is that there are three problems in the investment in Nepal. One is, yes, we need capital, no doubt about that. If we see the growth rate over the last 35 years after 1990, our growth rate on an average was only 4.3%. If we see the growth rate over the last 10 years, I think that has been published in the white paper, it's only 4.2. So if we would like to have 7% growth in a sustained manner, definitely we need more capital, no doubt about that. But let's see what's the capital situation and what's the output of Nepal. In terms of, I think in the economic term, what they say is incremental capital output ratio. So in the early 1990s, we used to say, when we were formulating the 8th plan, 9th plan, and even 10th plan, we need 4.5 to 5 rupees investment to get the outcome of 1 rupees. So ICOR, incremental capital output ratio, was 4.5, let's say. Now, if we see today's situation, it's close to 6.5 and 7%. So the economic system has become more inefficient over the last 35 years. So we need more capital, but economy has become more inefficient. So that's why you can see two things. One is the productive investment that's supposed to be going to the manufacturing sector. It's not going there. The share of manufacturing sector was 10% earlier. Now it has gone to 5% plus. So that's one evidence. Now if we see what Jayji was mentioning about the investment in Nepal, more than 60% of our investment is going to real estate, housing, wholesale trading and retail trading. So only 40% is going to the manufacturing sector and some productive sector. But even in that case, what many reports have said is that, yes, agriculture sector, I think there is some compulsion from Nepal Rashtra Bank that 20% of the investment has to go to agriculture. But we have not seen the output growth in agriculture or the productivity growth in agriculture. So that means it is being misused. Even in the manufacturing sector, I think we have so many manufacturing sectors representative today. So that one is also being misused. I think that has been reported to some cases. I think it is being channeled to different other activities in Nepal. So having said that, the third problem what we have seen is the productivity growth in Nepal, although I am talking about slightly dated number, the productivity growth of Nepal basically is very, very low, almost negligible. The labor productivity in Nepal is about $2,000. India is $6,000. Bangladesh is $8,000 and Sri Lanka is about $11,000. So the fundamental problem here is not only the capital, but also the inefficient use of capital and also the labor productivity is very low. So that means that we have to work very hard to change the economy from what we are trying to do today to the new economy. Although I think, I don't know how much time I have, but when we are talking about basically cross-border economic dialogue, definitely I think we are talking about Nepal-India relationship. I would be very brief on that topic. So what are the opportunities in that area? India being the largest investor in Nepal, trading partner, principal export destination, because more than 80% of our exports goes to India, geographically closer, growing at a rate of almost 7% per annum. That will provide us a great opportunity to be connected and get benefit out of India, no doubt about that. The second is, what India is saying is that India is neighborhood policy first and it has prioritized the connectivity, basically the cross-border connectivity to all the neighboring countries, and also they are giving increasing emphasis on the regional supply chain because of all kinds of wars and things like that. So what Modi ji was mentioning just even last month's the Chief of Mission's conference is that I think the most of the impact you will have is with the geographical proximity, basically neighbors. So the distant neighbors, yes, I think we have business relations, this and that, but the immediate impact and the longer term impact will be with the neighboring countries. So I think he has given true sense in that sense, we have to give emphasis on the neighborhood policy. So these are the opportunities. So very briefly on the sectors.
Yeah, maybe I will come to that point.
Okay,
later.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for that. We have Mr. Amlan Mukherjee with us. He is the Managing Director of Unilever Nepal Limited that has, I think, a product range of close to 160, if I am not mistaken, sir. They are in Nepal for quite some time now. And Mr. Mukherjee has served, I think, in few other South Asian countries too. So he has this wide spectrum of having good experiences of many similar countries like Nepal. So, sir, my question to you is, have you seen or have you experienced anything like what Nepal is going through now, that you have plenty of money, but somehow the investors are hesitant? And if you have experienced, how they overcome a situation like that?
Thank you, and thank you for hosting me here. I will first question your one term which you have used in the plenty of money. How do you define plenty of money? There are lots of money in the bank. Doesn't mean anything. The money is productive when the consumers are ready to spend that money. Otherwise, that money being in the bank is, to me, an idle asset. I think what Nepal is going through today is the case that, yes, as you said, 18 months of foreign exchange which is there, there are lots of money, but I always give this example in different forums that the majority of the money is not earned through exports or any other means, but through remittance. If you look at the definition of remittance, the way it is happening is that the young generation, they are out of the country, they are sending this money, and mostly those who are keeping the money are the parents, they are not ready to spend that money. So that money is going to the bank and staying there for the future, and hence it is not circling back to the economy. Now, if this is the situation, I would say that yes, we have seen lack of consumable money in India almost some 2.5 decades back, where there were money availability at the hands of the consumers were low. After all, after that you have seen that the per capita income has gone up in India substantially. But during that period, the way India tackled this entire policy is that at that point of time, India opened up. Now, the advantage with Nepal is that Nepal doesn't have any issue in terms of opening up or availability of different brands or opportunity for the consumers. What Nepal needs in the other way round is that the consumers will to go out and consume, and as long as that is not happening, the circle, the economic cycle will not get an acceleration. And to me, the way to do it is the present government needs to ensure, needs to decide that how they are moving the economy. Nepal till now has been an import-based economy. The government has seen the importers, and maybe rightly so, because Nepal is a landlocked country. As sir mentioned, 4.7%, if my figure is right, is the contribution of manufacturing to the entire GDP. To me, it is one of the lowest. As long as this doesn't change, as long as the government doesn't, and some 2.5 decades back, this is the change which India decided. India moved to manufacturing. India opened up to manufacturing. India gave the local industry the competition by opening up, and the foreign manufacturers coming in and creating the competition for the local industry. And today you can see the change and the quality which has happened. I think exactly it is, there is no magic wand in the hand of the government. It will not happen overnight. It will not happen in a year's time or two. But that direction to which, where the Nepal moves to manufacturing-based economy, slowly and gradually, will ultimately change the situation, is in my mind.
So there is no quick fix solution. And since we are still talking about money, let me talk to the gentleman who has a lot of money, though may not be his own money, it's the bank's money. We have Mr. Ram Kumar Tiwariji. He is Managing Director and CEO of SBI Bank, Nepal. And definitely, sir, if not personally, your banks do have a lot of money. How do you see that money that is lying over there with you, but the investors not showing interest in that? How do you correlate the two facts?
Yeah, good evening to all, and thank you for hosting me. Yeah, that is very true that banking sector has almost 900 billion excess liquidity. And this liquidity need to actually go to the productive sector. So what is happening at presently, that this surplus liquidity is being absorbed by Nepal Rashtra Bank through various instruments which are short term in nature. And if we see the deposit growth during this financial year has been 9.14%, where the credit growth has been only 5.54%. So basically there are some structural issues, and I will tell you why this is happening. There are some legacy issues. One is the real estate slowdown. What happened post-COVID? Nepal banking sector historically relied heavily on land and property collateral. So post-COVID, what happened? This collateral valuation has gone down. And since many loans were tied to real estate, this reduced overall credit appetite. That is the first factor. Second, because of that, the low investor confidence. What happened? Businesses are uncertain about economic growth, policy stability, taxes, and political direction so far. So now the government has come, probably this will be taken care. That directly actually lowered the credit demand. Third factor was the weak business demand and the high debt burden from earlier years. So when this loan was taken earlier,
we have just seen our chief guest, Honorable Shishir Khanal, in the hall. Welcome, sir. Please continue.
yeah. So when this loan was taken immediately after the COVID, many firms borrowed aggressively, and this was not actually utilized in productive assets. Now a lot of businesses are focused on repayment rather than taking new loans. So that is another factor. And of course, it's a structural problem in the economy, as we mentioned, because almost 28% of GDP is contributed by the remittances. Should have been the manufacturing. Remittances, import and consumption, and real estate. So this is what actually the structural issue And last is the productive sector like manufacturing, export industry, and agriculture remain relatively weak. So these are the mainly factors which are actually contributing to this situation.
Can you very bluntly say, and maybe very shortly too, maybe at the cost of being repetitive, why exactly the business doers are not taking loans from the banks as they should have been?
As I mentioned, so the solution to this is basically
No, please give me the reason why they are not taking it.
yes. So basically, the confidence in the sector has to be there. There is a first, and the policies, as I mentioned, has been changing. Taxes has been changing. So the once the stability is in the system, once the new government has come, probably in the budget they will take care of all these issues. And I am very sure that, very sanguine that with the new budget and the new government in place, these things will be taken care and credit flow will increase.
So basically, he is talking about the lack of investors' confidence. And that brings me to the next guest. We have Honorable Bidushi Rana with us. He is wearing a couple of hats today. She is an entrepreneur, she is a business owner, and also she is a respected member of the House of Representatives. Now I'm asking you a question as you being an entrepreneur, okay? To the legislative factor, I will come later. As our respected banker was saying that the investors don't have the confidence. And the same goes with you. Why don't you have a confidence to expand your business? You have an extremely precious brand that is very popular in Nepal, also going international. I think you have a huge scope of expanding it, or maybe to add additional units or maybe something else. Why you are hesitant in going to the bank for a loan?
Good evening, everybody, Honorable Minister, and thank you so much, Nikki, for inviting me. And thank you so much for asking this question. So, in manufacturing, I think there are a lot of bottlenecks. You know, I mean, there's not just one single issue. There's so many issues right now. It's not just about me going to the bank and asking for money, but the whole ecosystem is a problem. You know, we have very high logistic costs, unpredictable supply chains. It's very expensive and inconsistent compliance, lack of skilled manpower, difficult in scaling technology, and policy instability. And we've been talking about how manufacturing now contributes only, like in my data, it's 5.7%, but Sir just said it's 4.8%. So that's more disheartening because manufacturing today is not even like 4.7% according to Sir as, you know, at national GDP, and which just shows how much potential there is, but we're not utilizing it. So for a country like Nepal, I feel that manufacturing should not be treated as trading, and that's what Hari sir here and I've been talking about everywhere, because in Nepal, everybody gives more preference to trading because, you know, it's easier for a country also to get revenue through trading. But I think it's high time that we concentrate in manufacturing, because manufacturing is the backbone of any economy. And today, because we are a landlocked country, because you know, we don't have manufacturing, we are suffering because we import everything from everything that we eat. Like, you know, like we don't have manufacturing at all, and I think that's very, very important. Like, let's say a trading company, if they want to just stop importing from tomorrow, they can stop. But for a manufacturing company to even close down the factory, you know, we have workers, we have machinery, we have bank loans, raw materials, and long-term commitments. So policy must understand this difference, and if Nepal wants more jobs, exports, import substitution, manufacturing has to be protected, encouraged, and made competitive. And I've always been advocating for manufacturing. But coming to your questions about why I'm not going to the bank to get money, like Sir just said, that first of all, I think people don't have the confidence right now to go and ask for money because private sector, you know, their morale is really down right now because of so many things that is happening. So the private sector morale is down, A. B, I think the other thing that Sir was, I don't know if that's true, but there are a lot of bankers in the room, and I can see that, you know, because I think even yes, the customers don't have the confidence, I agree, but also the monetary policy of the central bank is so difficult that it's difficult for the bank also to trust people and give money. I mean, just an example, let's say if I want a loan of 1 crore and if I go to any bank to ask for that loan, first of all, they have to put 1% provision when I go and ask for that loan. Second, if I don't pay in 3 months, the bank has to keep 25% provision. If I don't pay in 6 months, the bank has to keep 50% provision. And if I don't pay back in 1 year, the bank has to pay 100% provision. So the bank will think like 10 times before giving loan to anybody, So I think that has to change. The monetary policy has to be more lucrative. Like in India, let's say like in India or any other countries, like in India, for any new business to go completely bankrupt, it takes 3 years. But in Nepal, the relationship between a bank and a customer grows bad very quick, because I'm also involved with the bank and I worked in a bank before and I'm also in manufacturing. So I can say this openly that, when a customer goes to a bank, and there are a lot of bankers here, I'm sure they'll all agree, the relationship becomes sour in like 6 months because the client will not be able to pay loan, and then the bank will have to call back, thing, and then it really becomes bad. So I think the monetary policy this year has to be more conducive, and I think that's very, very important. So yes, there is lack of confidence, but also the banks are very reluctant to give loan, and with new, the bank CEOs being caught, and I think the bank morale is more down right now, so that I think has to change for people to start taking loans.
So basically, it's not a matter only between a banker or, let's say, an investor. The entire ecosystem has to be conducive so that there will be more loan disbursements. And when I talk about the ecosystem, we have a very important player over here. We have Mr. Abhiman Bararia. He's the country director of Asian Paints. Asian Paints, as you would be knowing, is having a lion's share in Nepal's printing industry. Whether it's the morning time, evening time, or whatever the time is, whether you are in the office or at home, you might be looking at his paint on the walls. And before he came to Nepal, he served, I think, quite for some time in Dubai, UAE. So before I bring you to the Nepalese questions, let me ask you this one, if you are comfortable in saying so. As we know, Dubai or UAE is like the investment capital of the world. The whole world is going over there with carrying monies in their bags and where not. Do you have any differences that you have seen between Dubai and Nepal? Why people go over there money, and why, despite the fact that we have a lot of money over here in the banks, we are not going to our own banks? So what is the difference in, let's say, investment climate or ecosystem that differentiates these two countries, UAE and Nepal?
So obviously, I will not be speaking generally about UAE, but the country was formed only in 1971. It's about 54 years. And in 54 years, it has founded itself a lot on consumption. It has founded itself on consumption. Like, Amlan was saying that if you have an economy that can generate consumption in a certain manner, then it will thrive on its own. So whether it was real estate or shipping or industrial growth, and look at the region around it. It's completely, not very stable as a region as such. You have a lot of instability with respect to neighboring countries, and yet it was able to found in that sense. Now, if you set our benchmark back in 1971, I think this was a very prosperous country at that point in time, with industrial districts being set up, with roads being signed off. I think the Mahindra Highway was inaugurated in 1963, if I'm not mistaken. So at that point in time and at today, we can see a huge difference on why people choose to go to the UAE because of the capital mobility it allows, because of the standard of living that is there, and of course because of the income that is there for individuals. So that makes it a very attractive destination. If we look at us today, right, and in the context of let's say industrial growth or industrial expansion, I think we are dependent because of the nature of a landlocked nature of a country, but that shouldn't stop us. There are plenty of other examples like Ethiopia. Okay, they're also landlocked. They have never been colonized, and yet they have been able to set consistently 10% growth in GDP for the last 10 years. And they also have a lot of challenges, and yet they have been able to transform themselves. So I think it is vision, and like a lot of panelists today spoke about execution. Is what I think will take us through. We know what the problem is. We know what the solution also is, but we are not able to execute or implement that plan. So if we are able to commit ourselves to that execution, which is visible in the 100-point agenda that we see from the government, I think it should take us through comfortably.
Staying with you, Abhiman, can you also throw some light as you have done business in Dubai and also you're doing business in Nepal? What exactly are the differences, if you can tell me, let's say, in a very nutshell?
So ease of doing business is very good when you go to UAE. You don't have surprises like we have here. And, I'll give you surprises that we see in taxation. Like you do business in a certain way and suddenly, some interpretation changes the way you're doing business. And that interpretation is 4 years old. Okay, it applies to your audit 4 years old. So which means for the last 4 years, in the previous discussion, we spoke about penalties applying for 9 years till the judgment comes in. But your audit itself is happening 4 years later, right? Which therefore gives you a penalty 4 years by default, right? So that's surprise. On customs, there are surprises. There is a World Customs Organization, the harmony system is in place. But still, when your material lands onto the custom port, the evaluation has changed, right? So something that you think will be 10% duty, it has changed to 40%. So how do you operate with those kinds of, variabilities and decision? And that is something that I think we need to start looking beyond. Trust that the organizations are, supporting the entire ecosystem in the right way and not really provide these surprises. That's one. The other is obviously the manufacturing growth can come from a very rational way of, duty structure. And I'll give you an example that is applicable today in our country. We are having good infra growth. We are having good hydro growth. An integral component in construction is construction chemical, right? The duty for raw material and FG is the same. The scale that is there in manufacturing in India or China cannot compete with the scale that we have here. So even if we have capacity to make admixtures which goes into these construction projects, we cannot compete with the prices that come from India or China. And as a result, we are importing 150 odd crores every year of construction chemicals, 50% of which is water as a chemistry. So you see, this is the kind of decision making that can change the way we want to invest in our industry. Now, we've been giving all these inputs through various platforms, but they don't get accommodated. And as a result of which our industry capacity or let's say capacity utilization of factories is only sitting at some 60-70%. So there's no question of adding another factory if your existing plant itself is operating at 60-70%.
Now let me again get back to Ambassador Sharma. Being in India for quite some time, I think you now know perhaps the Indian business doers' mindset and attitude and how they perceive Nepal. There was a burst of Indian investments that came, let's say, in late 80s and early 90s, like these gentlemen came over here with their investments over here. But thereafter, there is a lull. The flow is not there from India to Nepal. Having interacted with so many Indian business doers over there, what do you think Nepal should be doing differently that they are not doing now or they haven't done until now, so that Nepal can be a better investment destination even for the Indians?
Thank you. First of all, I think if we talk with some of the Indian investors in India, one question they will raise is, why do we have to go to Nepal except for two things, hydropower and the second one is tourism to some extent, because it's also growing at a rate of 6-7% per annum, because we have disasters, we have COVID, we have so many things in between, but we have not been able to rapidly develop even tourism. So except for hydropower and tourism, the question is, I think if we do the business in Gujarat, if we do the business in Maharashtra, first of all, the transportation and logistic cost is half of what it is required to Nepal. So then I was just comparing with Uttar Pradesh now, Lucknow, because now Bihar, UP, Uttarakhand, they are supposed to have attracting less and less investment. But now the UP government is doing excellent work in terms of infrastructure development. So if we see the number Actually the cost of transportation from, let's say China East Coast, because lots of raw materials come from China, to Lucknow and Kathmandu, it's still 50% higher in bringing it to Kathmandu. So I think our first and foremost, although it cannot be done right away, probably we need to reduce this cost of transportation and logistic cost. It can be done because now Indian side, the infrastructure development has been very rapid. So from Delhi, I can reach to Lucknow in 4 hours in my vehicle. So easy. So even around the border area, I think there are 8-lane highways that are being built. So we need to reduce the transportation and transaction cost as much as possible. The second is, what they say is, definitely we don't have the economies of scale because India, I think Nepal is a small market and we have open border. We can export from India to Nepal very easily. So no problem at all. But having said that, I think they are still interested in the import substitution of some of the materials like we have seen here in Nepal. The second is, I think our former minister, Anil Sinhaji, he mentioned about the difficulties in Nepal. One window policy, I think it's not effective. There are so many procedural problems. If you would like to invest in the hydropower sector, you have to go to 32 different offices and things like that. So we have to simplify all those things. But I would like to give one example because somebody came from India, a private company, and then he said what kind of services he does in India. So if you have to apply in, let's say, getting the license in the hydropower, I can go to this company. He will verify all my documents on behalf of the government because he has either the office or the agents all over India and he can verify and the government will trust them, this agent. So if we have something like that, similar to what we are talking about, the one window policy, but effective one window policy and less documentation, no doubt about that. I think Haribhaktaji was mentioning like we have to submit online first and then we have to print all these documents and get it stamped from the Ministry of Industry. I think that's only the duplication. Although our Act will say that, an Act has said, that is in 2017, that we can submit online, we can have the online e-signature, but that has not been accepted over the last 9 years. So the third one, I think very quickly, we should encourage this supply chains link up with India. So regulations and incentives, anything that we would like to give, because we may not be able to attract big manufacturing industry in Nepal. So even for smaller one, MSMEs, probably we should reduce, we should regulate, we should minimize the regulations and provide more incentive for supply chain integration between India and Nepal. So that will also have one major impact. The stability of policy, I think previous speakers have already said all those things. The infrastructure development should be focused on some of the productive sectors. If we are talking about tourism, why don't we talk about Greater Manang and Mustang? Why don't we talk about Greater Janakpur area? Why don't we talk about, now we have recently done a project with the World Bank, Greater Lumbini area. So similar kind of thing, I think India is also interested in developing Buddhist circuit and Ramayana circuit. So if we can concentrate on some of those things in the hill stations in Nepal, probably I think we can also attract tourists just like in Thailand and Vietnam and some other countries. So I think these are some of the things that Indian investors also tell to me informally. Thank you.
Maybe Mr. Amlan Mukherjee would like to add some value to that and give some more insights. Sir, you came in the 90s, thereafter you stopped coming. Not in particularly you in person, but rest of the Indian investments in general. In Hindi there is a song, "Humse kya bhool hui, jo ye saza humko mili." What exactly went wrong that you would like to say that you stopped coming to Nepal, and also even your own setup is not expanding or adding any verticals. What did you take on that?
Okay, with the permission of Honorable Minister and everybody, I'll try to be a bit provocative. First and foremost, all the discussions happening over here about the future entry of the industry. I haven't heard in the last couple of years when I'm sitting over here that what is happening to those who have already entered. We have entered Nepal and we are in Nepal for the last 33 years, and same for Asian Paints, same for number of other things. The problems which we face and why it is important, let me tell you. I am part of Unilever. We operate in 108 countries in the world. We do a business of 60 billion euro globally, right? So, a word of us can do good for a country as an ambassador. Now, if this is the case, then I'll give you some of the examples of my own industry, and I'm sure others will also agree with me. For the last 4 or 5 years when I am in Nepal, I have met number of times and I've talked about one particular issue, which is inverted tax structure in Nepal. There are raw materials which we use or which we import where we pay equal or more taxes than the finished goods, which is over here. Every time I have met any of the honorable ministers and any of the secretaries, I was being told, oh, this is a disaster, this cannot happen, this is a mistake, and we are going to change it, right? That change hasn't happened for the last 4 years. I'm extremely hopeful with my discussions and our discussion with the present government, because I can hear same kind of a narrative from others also. These are basic corrections which needs to happen in order to attract. When we are going and we are in a forum and we are saying that, okay, there is issue in inverted tax structure, the taxation is not right. We are, as I was saying, we operate at a 62% capacity utilization of our factory. So you add 30% more volume and we will be able to supply over here, right? That can only happen when the consumption cycle of the country starts. When will that start? That will only start when there is disposable income at the hand of the consumers and they feel like spending the money. We enter 9 out of 10 households in Nepal, that's our claim. We feel that after staples, people use, I was telling, outside we are poor man's company. After staples, they use soaps and they use detergents and they use shampoos. Now, the moment the consumer confidence is there, the per capita income goes up, the consumption cycle will happen, the new industry. Actually, we love to have more competition in our own industry. Because it says that more competition, other than us, I think everybody else is importing, only we are manufacturing. We would prefer some more of our competition or competitors, they start investing and making over here, because that will then expand the category. And we being the market leader, we having our fair share, we will also gain along with the expanded category. So to cut the long story short, we need to create examples of success in Nepal. Once the example of successes are there, we don't need to beg for others to come to Nepal. Trust me, the industrialist will automatically come to Nepal. If I am allowed to differ in one point which is said, Nepal is not a small country in terms of the consumers. 3 crores population. You look at the Europe population, right? Some of the European countries' population. The issue is that Nepal is 49th in terms of the population ranked, 99th in terms of the GDP size globally, and 148 in terms of per capita GDP. Now, these figures might say that, oh, there is huge problem. I shall say that that is the size of headroom which is available in this country. If we can address that, I'll finish by giving another data. The consumer product consumption is in Nepal is 1/3 of that of Sri Lanka. So that captures the entire thing. We see the future in this country. We depend on the government to create the environment. If this is being created, I, on behalf of Unilever, must say over here that we are extremely, extremely positive about the future of this country. Thank you so much.
We are now coming towards the end, and we are more focused in finding solutions. And now let me get back to Mr. Ram Kumar Tiwariji, the MD and CEO of SBI Bank. So I think in Nepal, if I'm not wrong, there are two Indian banks. One of them is you, and perhaps there is Punjab National Bank with Everest Bank.
20%.
Yeah. No third bank. Why not the third bank? That's the first question. And secondly, what suggestions do you have that Nepal's policymakers and the lawmakers, now that there is a new government and quite a few very promising young parliamentarians, that Nepal should take something very innovative, something very creative, that the flow of investments from abroad will be coming rather easily?
Yeah, so a couple of things here. One is that Nepal SBI Bank, we are also running the 33rd year of the operation, and we are expanding actually every year. Now we have almost 153 offices throughout country. We are covering 54 districts out of 77, and we are expanding. So, and if you see the per branch population of the country is only 2,500. So again, whether there is a need to, for new banks or there is a need for consolidation, that has to be seen. We are expanding. Second is, there are a lot of projects by Indian corporates here and running smoothly, but there are various hurdles also, and that has to be taken care. And as far as the new things to be done in the economy, one is that the infrastructure projects have to come to attract new capital, new corporates. So that is the first thing. Second, if you see, the FX risk, the forex risk is there in the economy, slow settlement is there, regulatory fragmentation is there, and weak hedging market. So we are actually in touch with NRB, and through the Nepal Banking Association, we have suggested some product that how to hedge it and how to bring these new products in the market. Until unless the secondary market is there in the country, second is the new hedging instrument, whether it is interest rate swap, cross currency swap, or any other hedging instrument is there, the market will be slightly illiquid. So make the market more vibrant, these instruments are required. Then again, there is another thing called, integration of UPI and Nepal NPI. If that happens, again, this will, very, very easy, and it will be very cost effective. INR NPR settlement happen immediately. And if you see today, this UPI transactions in India, almost 700 million transactions per day is happening, and instantly without much cost. So once that integration happens, I think the settlement will be quick and on real time. Then again, some more credit guarantee like facilities. We have so many multilateral institutions in the country, like IFC is there, World Bank is there, ADB is there. So if that protection is given, I think the more corporates will be coming to this country. So I think the good days are ahead. Once new governments come out with the budget and the new projects come up, this economy will really boost up. And the government manifesto says like $100 billion economy in next 3 to 5 years. So the growth of 7 to 8% is quite easy. And as you know, 63% of the trade is with India, and India is growing at around 7%. And by 2047 will be a Viksit Bharat. That's the plan they have. So the Honorable Prime Minister there, he has set a target for 2047 being Viksit Bharat. So the economy is going to grow from presently from $4 trillion to almost $30 trillion. So that growth is definitely is going to come in the Nepal as well. So I think good days are ahead. Thank you.
Thank you for that. And all your words are going to the right ears. So we have a sitting Minister of Foreign Affairs over here. He might have taken a note of all your suggestions. Also, we have a very vibrant lawmaker in the panel itself. I will also come to her a little later, but I would like to stay with Mr. Abhiman Bararia, Country Director, Asian Paints. It's almost a repeat question, but still let me rephrase it. Do you have any out-of-the-box ideas for Nepal that would generate, let's say, more interest in further investments and a business expansion like that of yours also would take place?
See, one of the things that is fundamental in a heavily import-dependent country is substitution of import, which sir also mentioned earlier. And there are various ways, and one of the things that I saw in the UAE is called in-country value. Okay, so any major project that any company wants to sort of participate, whether it is government or a joint venture project with private sector, they have to have a certain score in country value, and every company has to get itself audited to get that score every year. And if your score is below 40, you're not entitled to. And when you get a higher score, then obviously people with much higher score get to sort of participate. An in-country value score is determined with basis how much you export, what kind of, let's say, indigenous raw material you use, etc., how many people you employ, what is the scale of your turnover, etc., etc., etc. So when all these companies want to bid for something that is large, that the government is investing, for example, if ADNOC was to make a refinery, right, they'll need everything, right, from cement to computer, and that's where ICV comes into play. The other example also is in KSA. When they announced these mega projects like NEOM and the line, they said that if you want to participate in these projects, your regional head office should be in the KSA. Because most of the regional head offices of many companies were in the UAE, they wanted them also to move. And that led to a mass movement of many companies because the KSA potential was huge, like literally very huge. So these ideas are there. I think the necessity is import substitution, without which, export promotion comes second. But first is import substitution. The other thing is that we spoke about export all day long, that we should export and there should be policy, etc., etc. But where is the customer for it? Okay, today we are sitting between two large economies. One of them is the factory for the world. The other is aspiring to be. You now have semiconductors also being manufactured in India, iPhones, and so on and so forth. Data centers, they've already set up so many data centers. So you have to figure out what is it that you will be able to export. Not everything can go. There is a certain niche, right, which belongs to the country, whether it is Himalayan water or it is the indigenous vegetables or fruits, etc. But you also have to understand what is it that these countries import as raw material. And if somehow we can, supply those raw material to these countries, we can then increase our export. Because we have the opportunity of scale with these two countries, and that's something that needs to be leveraged.
Thank you for that. Now I come to Honorable Bidushi Rana. You wear, as I said earlier, multiple hats. You are a businesswoman. You are now the honorable member of the parliament. You are the co-convener of Nikki's Industry and Export Promotion Committee. You are a permanent invite to the Nikki's Executive Committee. So there are so many things that you are deeply involved in. Bringing all these experiences, being a business person, also being a parliamentarian now, what are your ideas that we Nepalese have to do differently than what we have been doing until now, so that there is a better investment climate, and also, as you said earlier, the ecosystem would be inviting also the friendly players like they have come from India. What exactly we have to do additional and different from this point onward?
I feel that as a new lawmaker, our role is to connect policy with reality because, many laws are made before and from files and theories, but now we have to really get into the ground reality. Like Sir was talking about inverted tax policy. That is, I think, in all our industries, we pay more for raw materials and finished goods come at a cheaper price. So things like that, so we have to connect the policy with reality. So I think we understand that. And like RSP manifesto and the Bacha Patra that we've made, government is repeatedly saying that economy will be private sector led and government will facilitate it. So that's music to our ears, to all the private sector. RSP promises to focus on good governance. That was one of the problems why most of the industries could not prosper in Nepal. Focus on reducing corruption and bureaucracy hurdles. Major economic reforms is the second phase. Simplification of doing business, like we talked about, one window policy. So we are going to make sure that happens. Protection and promotion, of course, of private enterprise and legal reforms, because I think our ex-minister was talking about how the laws are so old. So RSP, as you all know, we are doing a lot of legal reforms on investment climate, and the government plans to amend or scrap multiple outdated laws that was causing hindrance. Focus on manufacturing and domestic production. Strong anti-corruption and accountability drive. I mean, that's the whole reason that this new government has come. And then, because we've targeted a 7% economic growth and GDP growth to $100 billion and per capita income to 3,000 rupees, $3,000. So I think all of that will come only if we make these changes that we promised to change in the manifesto. Foreign investment facilitation, diaspora, how we're going to how we're going to ask the NRNs also to invest here. So, there are a lot of things that RSP has in its 100 Bacha Patra. So, if we can do most of it, which we're all working towards, I think there will be a conducive environment for businesses to prosper in Nepal, for multinational companies to come here. Because, we have to make it easy for multinational companies to come. Because, like how you were saying, they all came in the late 70s, I think. And no other multinational companies have come after because of our policies. But those policies will now be changed. And we will make it more conducive for multinational companies to come and invest. And also for domestic production to happen here, for more industries to open up. Because that, like I said, is the backbone of our economy. So RSP is working towards all of that, and so I'm sure it's all going to work out now.
That's pretty comprehensive. Since we have come to almost to an end, do I have time to take a couple of questions? If you're really interested in asking a question, then please do so. We have a gentleman over here. Can we have the microphone? नेपालीमा प्रश्न गरे नि भयो कसैले अप्ठ्यारो छ भने माइक्रोफोन यतातिर ल्याइदिनु होला यता अगाडि एकचोटि हात उठाइदिनुस् त प्लिज मेक योर क्वेसन सर्ट
Namaste, Anjani Fuyal from Genesis Solution. I hear about NEOM to the last speaker over there. Sometimes, we try to compare bigger economies with smaller economies like us as well. I mean, Saudi is big enough and I think they have attracted capital from all over the world. So they have a capacity to say 30% people need to be local. You need to have a regional headquarter over here and those kind of things as well. But do you think the same formula should be implemented here? Will it work here or we need to work differently? Thank you.
एउटा अर्को प्रश्न लिन सकिन्छ होला कसैलाई सोध्नै पर्ने छ भने थाकिसक्नु भएको छ भने नसोधे नि हुन्छ ल कुनै पनि हात देखिन मैले त्यसैले म अब यो सेसनलाई अन्त्यतिर जाउँ र अन्त्यमा unless you have if you have anything really urgent to say okay go ahead.
Do you want me to respond to the question?
Okay.
Okay. No, so obviously the solution has to be customized to the context of the country. These are examples that many countries are able to implement to the success and understanding of their own. But I think what is important is to understand what is our benchmark. If our past is our benchmark, then our growth is going to be incremental, right? Our benchmark, when we say capital attractiveness, is to all the other possibilities that capital has outside of the country. If a multinational like us or any other company wants to invest, they do not compare us to our past. They compare us to any other country. So I think it's about setting the right benchmark. And for your reference, I'll give you one more example. In 1970, the total blacktop road in Oman was 10 kilometers. And 7 years before that was the foundation for the Mahindra Highway. So sometimes, benchmarks could be very funny, but I think it's important to set the right benchmarks for us and then move in that direction. Because we've missed, it was said in the earlier talk, we've missed the industrial revolution, we've missed the IT revolution, we've missed the digital revolution, we are now missing the AI revolution. We are not capitalizing on it, we are missing it. As we speak, we are missing it. So we cannot afford to miss these transformations in global order. So I think, yes, the solution has to be contextualized to the country, but these are some ideas which, one could be inspired from.
Just to add about the export promotion, actually very, good experience happened in India. One is the one district, one product. If we can, specialize every district with one product, that will add to our export. Second is the SEZ, Special Economic Zones, where the tax concessions are given for some time. And then a lot of production happens there. And third is the PLI scheme, production linked incentives. So that also has really helped Indian exports to grow up. And recently Mr. Amitabh Kant sir was here and he was mentioning the presence of Honorable Finance Minister that country has a growth potential of 9 to 10%, not 7%. Thank you.
Any more words? Okay,
Just
please.
one, we'd like to end with a positive note. I'll give you an example of a recent development in India. There's some of you may have heard the name of this place called Vizag. Vizag was effectively a place which was some 20-25 years back. It was basically a fisherman's town with some kind of a tourism over there. Last 2 months back, world's largest data center is being announced, is going to come up in Vizag. Why am I giving this example? Is because this last 20 years perhaps, a huge preparation has gone to change the contour of that place to where the world's largest data center can be hosted. So hence, Nepal can start the preparation now, today, and I'm sure in years' time, Nepal will also have such success stories for sure.
Any more words from the panel or you're done? Okay. माननीय प्रधानमन्त्रीजी पनि हुनुहुन्छ हामीसँग, उहाँले पनि सबै कुराहरू सुन्नुभएको छ। उहाँले पनि आफ्नो मुख्य अतिथिको प्रमुख अतिथिको मन्तव्यमा कुराहरू राख्नुहुन्छ होला। अब यो प्यानलबाट आएको कुराहरूलाई छोटोमा संश्लेषित रूपमा के भन्नु पर्यो भने एउटा कुरा के भन्न सकिन्छ भने हामीसँग पैसा छ, पैसा राष्ट्र बैंकसँग पनि छ डलरमा र पैसा चाहिँ नेपालको बैंकिङ सेक्टरमा पनि छ। तर त्यो पैसा जबसम्म राम्रो तरिकाले सही नीतिका साथ पब्लिकको हातमा पुग्दैन त्यो इन्भेस्टेबल मनी बन्दैन। पहिलो कुरो त्यो हो। अर्को, कुनै पनि चिजको सल्युसन हुन्छ तर सल्युसन आउन समय लाग्छ। देयर इज नो क्विक फिक्स सल्युसन। त्यसैले अहिले जुन हामी अवस्थामा छौँ, हामी जतिसुकै व्यग्र भए तापनि यसले केही समय लिन सक्छ र यदि हाम्रो प्रयास ठिक छ, हाम्रो नीति ठिक छ, हाम्रो नेतृत्व सही ठाउँमा निर्णय लिइरहेको छ भने आउने दिन हाम्रो लागि राम्रै हुन्छ होला। र उहाँहरूले चाहिँ केही विशिष्ट उदाहरण दिनुभएको छ, त्यो सम्भवतः हामी सबैको लागि उपयोगी हुन्छ होला। With that, I thank you all for being such a lovely panelist, and I also thank the organizer for organizing this event and this session too. Though we are running a bit late, but I'm done with my session. Now there is going to be the statements from our chief guest and the organizer, and a couple of more individuals. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I'd like to request all our speakers to please stay back. And before we proceed towards the felicitation of our speakers, I'd like to take this honor to recognize the presence of Honorable Susil Khanal, Minister for Foreign Affairs. He has graced the presence. I'd like to request him to please take a seat in the front row, and then we'll proceed towards the felicitation of our speakers. Ladies and gentlemen, can we have a round of applause for our speakers? To felicitate our speakers, may I now invite on stage the President of CBFIN, Prachanda Bahadur Shrestha on stage. Likewise, I'd also like to request Executive Chairperson of NBI, Mr. Bisal Gaire, to be on stage. I'd also like to request Kunal Kayal, the officiating President of NICI, to please be on stage. This was indeed a very forward-looking and insightful conversation on bridging the investment gap, connecting capital for economic growth. I'd now like to take this honor to request the organizing team to felicitate Honorable Bidushi Rana, Member of House of Representatives and also the Executive Director of Gold Star Stride Limited. We'd also like to take this honor to felicitate Dr. Shankar Prasad Sarma, former Ambassador of Nepal to India. Also taking this moment to recognize Amlan Mukherjee, Managing Director, Unilabel Nepal Private Limited. We'd also like to take this moment to felicitate and thank Mr. Ram Kumar Tiwari, MD and CEO, Nepal SBI Bank Limited. We'd like to take a moment to thank and acknowledge Abhiman Bararia, Country Director, Asian Paints Nepal Private Limited. Last but not the least, we'd like to take this moment to felicitate and thank our moderator, Jenny Sant, who is the policy advisor for NICI. The final panel for Nepal Business Summit 2026, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much, everyone. Today, we have been in this hall for many hours, and together we have envisioned a future for Nepal, a future that is driven by innovation, investment, policy stability, entrepreneurship, and regional collaboration. We're almost towards the end of the summit. I'm hoping this does not end because there has been very immersing conversation that has been going on. And we have been honored with the presence of our foreign affairs ministers. But before that, there's a public service announcement. We found this remote, I guess, BYD. If any of you have lost it, you can please contact someone here. Yeah. With that, I would now like to take this moment and honor to invite on stage our chief guest for the closing session.
The closing session of this Nepal Business Summit 2026. Over the course of today's intense deliberation, I understand this room has generated the very sparks of innovation and partnership that our national economy urgently requires. I must applaud the panels for their deeply insightful diagnosis of our current landscape. Your contributions are not just relevant, they are perfectly synchronized with our national aspirations. Ladies and gentlemen, we are gathering at a historical junction. Nepal stands on the precipice of sweeping generational transformation. The old ways of economic inertia are behind us. Guided by the mandate of Nepali people, the current government is driven by an unyielding two-pronged core trajectory. Embedding good governance as our non-negotiable foundation while igniting rapid, sustainable economic growth. At the center of our political movement and at the absolute core of our 10-year development horizon is an ambitious but entirely achievable goal: transforming Nepal into a $100 billion economy. Realizing this vision is not just a math problem. We need to engineer a structural pivot. We are deliberate in our effort to transform Nepal from remittance-driven economy, consumption-based economy, into investment and production-based economy. We acknowledge with absolute humility that domestic investment alone cannot propel us to this next level of economic transformation. We know that investor confidence, both domestic and international, has historically suffered due to policy instability and regulatory bottlenecks. We want to provide stability and predictability to our entrepreneurs, businesses, and investors. As outlined in our newly tabled principles and priorities, our upcoming national budget is anchored upon a 100-point governance reform action plan. This plan is specifically designed to systematically dismantle regulatory barriers, ensure robust market confidence, and insulate capital from unnecessary red tapes. Furthermore, we're introducing a single window, time-bound, and digital administrative system. As the Minister for Foreign Affairs of Nepal, I believe that foreign policy cannot operate in traditional framework alone. In the modern global arena, economic prosperity is the highest form of national interest. Therefore, our ministry has initiated a rigorous round of inter-ministerial sessions to diagnose and break the systemic bottleneck in project implementation. We are bridging gap between foreign policy and domestic administrative reform. Our mandates are clear. When international capital arrives in Kathmandu, Nepal must be fully synchronized, structurally insulated, and open for seamless business. Our diplomatic mission across the globe can no longer function just as an administrative outpost. We have begun process to structurally re-engineer the mission to serve as aggressive gateway for cross-border investment, secure technology transfers, and bilateral economic partnership. We're actively striving to anchor Nepal firmly within the regional value chains of South Asia and the broader global economy. To bridge our investment gap and to scale $100 billion, the government principle and priorities highlight 5 strategic sectors where Nepal possesses an undeniable competitive advantage. Tonight, I invite you, global and regional capital, to plug into these engines. Energy and hydropower is key. Hydropower development is the strategic cornerstone of our macroeconomic stability. Explicitly stated in our 10-year policy framework, we have upgraded our horizons to aim for production of 30,000 megawatts of electricity within the next decades. Our immediate intermediate target for 10,000 megawatt is critical to narrowing the trade deficit through cross-border energy trading. Capital of this magnitude requires massive coordinated cross-border investment. We warmly welcome expanded private sector participation from India and global foreign direct investment community to unlock this regional energy grid. Second, tourism. Nepal possesses an inherent unsaliable edge in tourism, from high-altitude mountaineering and adventure tourism to deep spiritual and wellness retreats. We are repositioning Nepal as a premier global destination. As we gear up for Visit Nepal 2085, we invite international hospitality groups and elite hotel brands to invest heavily in world-class infrastructures. Tourism infrastructure development is high multiplier area that creates localized employment, stimulates rural economies, and brings high-value returns. Third, connectivity. We must transform our geographical reality. Nepal is not a landlocked country. We must tell the story of a landlocked nature of our nation. We sit between two of the largest and fastest growing markets. To fully monetize these strategic positions, we're placing infrastructure development into mission mode. Through a combination of state capital and public-private partnership, we are aggressively expanding strategic roads, railways, inland container depots, integrated checkposts, and special economic zones. We're actively encouraging FDI in logistics to slash transaction cost of doing business and enhancing our trade competitiveness. And into the weightless economy. Perhaps the most exhilarating frontier of our $100 billion vision is the information and communication technology sector. We're pitching the concept of knowledge corridors to global tech community, creating living laboratories in digital transformation, AI, and remote work. The direct interest expressed by global tech giants to collaborate with local companies in establishing state-of-the-art data center is a massive validation of our digital readiness. We are expanding public digital infrastructure, cloud services, and cybersecurity framework to ensure that our young, tech-savvy workforce can fuel a booming, intellectual, weightless economy. And from brain drain to brain circulation. We cannot talk about capital without talking about people who create it. For too many decades, Nepal's primary export has been the sweat, tears, and aspiration of our youth. The government is changing that tragic narrative from painful brain drain to dynamic, continuous loop of brain circulation. Through the institutionalization of Diaspora Bridge, we are formally calling upon our global Nepali community. Bring home your intellectual capital, bring your technical expertise, your technological know-how, and your global institutional networks. By marrying international diaspora expertise with our domestic priority areas, we will transform our local enterprises into vibrant hubs of global innovation. Our newly established Ministry of Science, Technology, and Innovation will serve as the institutional anchor for this extract transition. To the industry leaders gathered here tonight, the leaders of NICI, CVFIN, and our Export Federation, your leadership is indispensable. I ask you to move away from the isolated transactional business model of the past and embrace a deeply cooperative corporate ecosystem. I invite our large businesses to integrate these micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises into your domestic supply chains through an assured business model, where the growth of our smallest local startup is structurally intertwined with ambition of our largest corporations. That is how we build a resilient economic fabric. Ladies and gentlemen, bridging the investment gap is fundamentally much more than a technical arithmetic exercise of matching dollars to projects. It is a profound test of our national resolve, our political stability, and to our strategic foresight. Capital does not flow where there is a noise. It flows where there is absolute clarity, transparent regulatory framework, and stable policy directions. Nepal now offers that stability. With a firm government, an unyielding commitment to regional integration, and a clear vision for $100 billion economy, we stand at the gates of transformation. We're building a Nepal that is open for business, committed to reform, and resolute in its ambition. Together with you, we'll bridge the investment gap, attract the capital our economy requires, and build a prosperous nation that delivers opportunity and dignity to all of Nepali citizens. Thank you. Subharatri.
What an honor to hear from our Honorable Minister for Foreign Affairs, Honorable Cecile Khanal, who is also the chief guest for our closing ceremony. I requested him to stay back. I'd now like to request the President from all our 4 organizations to be on stage and felicitate our chief guest, Honorable Minister for Foreign Affairs. I'd like to request Mr. Prachanda Bahadur Shrestha, President of CIVIFIN, to please be on stage. We already have the Executive Chairperson of NBI, Mr. Bisal Goire, on stage. I'd like to request the President of FIN, Mr. Govinda Prasad Khimiri, to please be on stage. Likewise, I'd like to request Mr. Kunal Khayal, the officiating President of NICI, to please be on stage. Ladies and gentlemen, it was truly an honor to hear from Honorable Cecile Khanal. I'm sure that his remark has sparked a ray of hope in everyone present in the room, and we truly thank him for being here in the summit and raising all of our hopes despite his busy schedule. Can we have a round of applause for our Honorable Minister for Foreign Affairs? Thank you. Thank you, everyone. We are almost towards the end of Nepal Business Summit 2026. We started today's session with conversation about AI and new economic order, followed by conversations about restoring economic confidence, unlocking Nepal's export potential, fintech innovation, that was followed by a fireside chat on growth acceleration and governance, and our final panel discussion on bridging the investment gap, connecting capital for economic growth. Today has indeed been a day full of insights and learning, and I hope it is a same feeling for everyone present in the home. As organizers of Nepal Business Summit 2026, we promise that the discourses that we have heard throughout the day today won't be limited to the 4 walls and would definitely reflect as visible results in days to come. It makes me quite emotional to sign off. Before I sign off, I'd like to invite on stage the summit coordinator, the person who envisioned, coordinated, and executed it all so seamlessly, Mr. Bisal Goire, who is also the executive chairperson of NBI, for his closing remarks. Can we please have a round of applause for our summit coordinator for making it a very successful event, and handing it over to Mr. Goire. I, Anusha, your host, would like to sign off. Thank you so much.
नेपाल बिजनेस समिट 2026 को यो समापन सत्रको प्रमुख अतिथि माननीय परराष्ट्र मन्त्रीज्यू, मैले देखिरहेको छु पूर्व मन्त्री अनिल सिन्हाजी हुनुहुन्छ, माननीय विदुषी राणाजी हुनुहुन्छ, भारतका लागि पूर्व नेपाली राजदूत शङ्कर प्रसाद शर्माजी हुनुहुन्छ, नेपालका लागि भारतीय दूतावासका फर्स्ट सेक्रेटरी कमर्स श्री सुमन शेखरजी हुनुहुन्छ र सीएनआई का पास्ट प्रेसिडेन्ट वरिष्ठ उद्यमी हरिभक्त शर्माजी हुनुहुन्छ, सिपिफिन निक्की र फिनका अध्यक्षजीहरू हुनुहुन्छ, विभिन्न बैंक तथा वित्तीय संस्थाका प्रमुखजी हुनुहुन्छ। म सर्वप्रथम नेपाल बिजनेस 2026 लाई सम्पन्न गर्नका लागि सहयोग गर्नुहुने, सहकार्य गर्नुहुने तपाईं सम्पूर्ण सहभागी, साझेदार निकाय र यो कार्यक्रमलाई भव्य र सभ्य रूपमा सम्पन्न गर्नका लागि सहयोग गर्ने सबै स्वयंसेवक लगायत सबै साथीहरूलाई हार्दिक धन्यवाद र आभार व्यक्त गर्न चाहन्छु। हामी धेरै लेट भइसकेका छौँ, त्यसैले म लामो भाषणबाजी गर्न चाहन्न। 2 मिनेटदेखि 3 मिनेटमा म आफ्नो कुरा राख्न चाहन्छु। आज हामीले बिहान 9 बजेबाट झन्डै 8 बजेसम्म एउटै मूल मुद्दामा केन्द्रित भएका छौँ। नेपालको आर्थिक विकास, समृद्धि, दिगो विकास, स्थायित्व र निजी क्षेत्रले सरकारबाट खोजिरहेको आत्मविश्वास, लगानी सुरक्षा र सरकार र निजी क्षेत्र सँगसँगै मिलेर समृद्धिको यात्रा अगाडि बढाउने सन्दर्भमा सरकार र निजी क्षेत्रको बीचमा ब्रिजिङको काम चाहिँ हामीले समिट मार्फत गर्न खोजेका थियौँ र समुद्घाटन सत्रमा सम्माननीय सभामुख सहभागी हुनुभयो, माननीय अर्थमन्त्रीज्यू सहभागी हुनुभयो र सँगसँगै प्रत्येक च्यानलमा हामीले अहिले राष्ट्रिय स्वतन्त्र पार्टीका माननीय सांसदज्यूहरू, प्रभावशाली सांसदज्यूहरूलाई हामीले सहभागी गरायौँ र मलाई लाग्छ उहाँहरूको प्रतिबद्धताले के देखिआएको छ भने सरकार निजी क्षेत्रसँग मिलेर सौहार्दपूर्ण तरिकाले नेपालको आर्थिक विकासको लागि, नेपालको समृद्धिका लागि, जनताको जीवनस्तर उकास्नको लागि चाहिँ सहकार्य गर्न तयार छ भन्ने निष्कर्ष आजको समिटले दिएको छ भन्ने मलाई लागेको छ। र दोस्रो विषय मलाई लागिरहेको छ, नेपालमा धेरै पोटेन्सियल कुराहरू छन्, जस्तो हामीले ऊर्जा, पर्यटन, कृषि, निर्यातजन्य उद्यम, स्टार्टअप, महिला उद्यमशीलता, थुप्रै विषयहरू छन्। ती विषयलाई हामीले आगामी दिनमा सरकारको नीति, कार्यक्रम र बजेट मार्फत, म सङ्घीय सरकार मात्रै भन्न चाहन्न, तिनै तहका सरकारबाट यो नीति कार्यक्रम चाहिँ यो निजी क्षेत्र मैत्री बनाउँदै कार्यान्वयनमा जोड दिनुपर्छ भन्ने विषय आज उठेको छ। र तेस्रो विषय उठेको छ, निजी क्षेत्र यति बेला पर्ख र हेरको नीति जस्तो देखिन्छ, किनभने सरकारले केही व्यक्तिलाई पक्रिँदाखेरि चाहिँ निजी क्षेत्र तरङ्गित भएको, बैंक तथा वित्तीय क्षेत्रमा एकदमै कम बेस रेट हुँदा पनि लोन नगएको, जसले गर्दा मार्केट चलायमान नभएको जस्ता कुराहरू पनि आएको छ। आशा गरौँ आगामी दिनमा सरकारले जुन लामो समयपछि सरकार भनौँ स्थिर सरकार पाएको छ, स्थिर नीतिका साथ देश निर्माणमा साझा सङ्कल्पका साथ सरकार र निजी क्षेत्र मिलेर अघि बढ्ने वातावरण बन्नेछ भन्ने मैले विश्वास लिएको छु। र सँगसँगै म अहिले हाम्रो सरकारको प्रभावशाली मन्त्री वरियताका हिसाबले पनि धेरै माथि हुनुहुन्छ, टप 3 मा हुनुहुन्छ। पार्टीको पनि विदेश विभाग प्रमुखको हिसाबले निकै राम्रो काम गर्नुभएको छ। यति मात्रै होइन, अघिल्लो पटकको सङ्घीय संसदमा पनि उहाँले निकै राम्रो प्रस्तुति दिनुभयो, शिक्षा मन्त्रीको रूपमा काम पनि गर्नुभयो। म परिपक्व नेतृत्व भन्न रुचाउँछु माननीय शिशिर खनालज्यूलाई। र उहाँको उपस्थितिले हामी के भन्न सक्छौँ भने सरकारले निजी क्षेत्रसँग मिलेर काम गर्ने सन्दर्भमा चाहिँ अलिकति तपाईँको यो पछिल्लो जुन समस्याहरू देखिएको थियो निजी क्षेत्रमा, त्यसलाई समाधानको लागि चाहिँ केही सरकारले प्रयत्न गर्ने सन्दर्भमा होला। र कहिले केही कस्तो हुन्छ भने तातै चाहिँ दुवैतिर चाहिँ तातो हुन्छ, बिस्तारै गफ गर्दै गएपछि, कुरा गर्दै गएपछि, कामको अनुभव हुँदै गएपछि परिपक्वता पनि विकास हुँदै जान्छ। त्यसैले म फेरि पनि के कुरामा जोड दिन चाहन्छु भने आजको समिटको मूल विषय चाहिँ निजी क्षेत्र मैत्री नीति कार्यक्रम र बजेट बनाऊ। किनभने हामीले बिहान पनि छलफल गऱ्यौँ, राज्यले अति नियमन होइन सहजीकरण गर्ने र निजी क्षेत्रले उद्यम व्यवसाय गर्ने, उद्यम व्यवसायले तिरेको ट्याक्सबाट राज्य सञ्चालन गर्ने र राज्य सञ्चालन गर्दा जनतालाई केन्द्रमा राख्ने, घाँस बगबास, कपास, शिक्षा, स्वास्थ्य, रोजगारी जुन मूल विषय भनेका छौँ, ती विषय सँगसँगै साना, मझौला, ठुला, स्वदेशी, विदेशी, एफडिआई सबै क्षेत्रका उद्यमी व्यवसायलाई हामीले उत्साहित गर्ने, प्रोत्साहन गर्ने, प्रवर्धन गर्ने नीति चाहिँ सरकारले लिनेछ भन्ने विषयमा आज हामी छलफल गऱ्यौँ। र मलाई त्यो विश्वास पनि छ सरकारले यो विषयलाई सुन्नेछ र त्यही अनुसारले नीति कार्यक्रम आउनेछन् भन्ने कुरा राख्न चाहन्छु। र माननीय परराष्ट्र मन्त्रीज्यूलाई भन्न चाहन्छु कि हामीले धेरै पटक राम्रा नीति, राम्रा कार्यक्रम, राम्रा बजेट देख्यौँ, तर कार्यान्वयनको विषय हेऱ्यौँ भने धेरै तल। कुल बजेटको 30% कार्यान्वयन भयो, असार मसान्त आउन लाग्यो, जेठ मसान्त आउन लाग्यो भन्ने धेरै सुन्यौँ। यो 20औं वर्षदेखि सुन्यौँ। मलाई लाग्छ नेपालका 8-10 वटा मेजर समस्याहरू छन्, ती समस्या सर्ट आउट गर्ने हो भने देश अर्कै नेक्स्ट लेभलमा पुग्छ। हामीसँग अहिले हामी अघि फायर साइडमा देख्यौँ, वरिष्ठ उद्यमी हरिभक्त शर्मा सरसँग यति धेरै नलेज छ, यति ठुलो उद्यमको ज्ञान छ, म यो ज्ञानको भण्डारै भन्न रुचाउँछु यो व्यवसाय क्षेत्रको। र उहाँहरू जस्तो मान्छेहरू पनि यति धेरै नीतिगत उल्झनमा, व्यवहारिक कठिनाइमा, साना कुरामा भिडिरहनु परेको छ। अफिसका 4-5 जना मान्छेलाई सरकारी कार्यालयमा त्यही कागज मिलाउनको लागि नै पठाउनु पर्नेछ। मैले अघि आफ्नो कुरा पनि, मलाई यसो उहाँले आफ्नो फ्रस्ट्रेसन पनि पाउनुभयो कि जस्तो लाग्यो उहाँको कुरा सुन्दा। त्यसैले म के भन्न चाहन्छु भने सरकारले निजी क्षेत्रसँग संवाद गरेर छलफल गरेर अगाडि बढोस् भन्न चाहन्छु। र अन्तिममा आई वुड लाइक टु एक्सप्रेस माई हार्टफेल्ट ग्र्याटिट्युड फर योर ग्रेसियस पार्टिसिपेसन अन्टिल द closing session of the Nepal Business Summit 2026. I would like to, I hope this cocktail dinner becomes a truly memorable evening for you all. See you in 2027. Thank you.